Okay, England versus USA football match right now that are crazy enough to be with us right now. We'll make sure that it's up on YouTube.
Okay, so now a speaker.
Azad, I'm going to need you to confirm.
Okay, great. All right.
I sent you an invite. Hopefully you can see that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you're now a speaker.
Hey guys.
Azad, I'm going to need you.
Yeah, recording in progress.
Okay, great. All right, Mary, shall we invite up the first request?
Absolutely. First, we have Sean.
Hey guys, thanks for having me up. And yeah, Simon, thanks really for everything you're doing. You know, the amount of time you're putting in, I can really tell it's definitely very time consuming. And it's nice to hear, yeah, someone kind of by our sides, because some of the things I'm seeing on the other side is just crazy, especially with the whole FTX thing going. It's you don't know who to trust. And I think including you yourself, I think you have a lot of doubters as well. But I had a couple questions on both. My first was on the international community. Is what you've built, what you're pitching, it wasn't clear to me whether it's even possible for us to sign up, or is this a more US thing that you're setting up here?
Yeah, as a non-US resident and as a non-American, this is an international website. It's a global website. One of the reasons why we only segregate US investors to our US broker-dealer is because we wanted a much more, we started as a Cayman Island securities business. When we started in the UK, we were only able to work with UK investors and UK businesses. And so we had to create this global structure that we've been building over the last decade. So, yes, you are completely welcome. I just showed the US version, but I'm not a US person. So it's completely open to international. And almost all of my investments have been made in companies through Bank to the Future.
Okay, thanks for the clarity on that. And then I just want to get a little more clarity on like the process itself, even on like a technological side, where it's like, okay, let's say I upload my claim or I transfer my claim over. If I understood, you currently only have Bitcoin, Ethereum, and stables that will kind of display on your dashboard to begin with. Then my question is, okay, so let's say
let me correct that. It will actually display all of the public information that is there, but it will have a second column called available. Initially, if we engage in any activities where you actually allocate it over to an investment, then initially it's just going to be focused on Bitcoin, ETH, and stable coins. So if you've got other coins or tokens, we could build features where you could use them for different things. But initially, we've just focused on the available for that.
Okay, understood. Yeah, unfortunately for me, it's sell token, but I've kind of marked that at 0 in my head, to be honest. But I would left the I have a few other assets. But then,
did you see my previous videos of how we would handle sell token if we were in charge?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay, so check out the 7-part video series I created, and in the first one, I talked about a concept called the equitable haircut strategy. And basically, we believe that everyone that owns sell tokens in the app is, unless the insider, some of the insiders that aren't entitled, that the court will determine in later processes. But, we believe that those that were duped into holding sell token on the app are equal victims as well in the process. And so we put together a strategy of how we think we would handle. So it may not be worth 0. It's it's only sell token outside the app that's a bit of a speculative frenzy.
Okay, I'll definitely check those videos out. Yeah, okay, that's interesting. But then, so moving forward, so let's say we transfer the claim over, and Chapter 11 continues, and there's bidders. Like, what happens if another bidder wins? Or
yeah, so let me be clear. Initially, you're not transferring your claim over. You're just simply having a dashboard And if nothing happens in any of the processes that any of Bank to the Future or any of our other clients that we're trying to get in the bidding process, if nothing happens, then it's just simply a dashboard for you to see how much you had as a claim. If something happens, then we would legally reach out to you, and then you would engage in full disclosure and a full legal contract that would then be binding or non-binding if you didn't want to do it. So at the moment, it's more of a dashboard, and it's very useful for when anyone's engaging in the different parts of the process to be able to say, we've got a plan for Celsius mining, and we've got a whole community that really believes in that, and we could try and move them over to a binding process.
Okay, that sounds great. Yeah, great. Those were the two questions I had. And thanks again.
Thank you for your questions, Sean. Simon, we currently don't have any questions. I encourage all that are listening right now, please come up and make your request so you can ask Simon your questions. So Simon, if you want to just go ahead and explain a little bit more about what you presented, then I'll let some people up as they request.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we talked about these three different processes because we have to comply with the bankruptcy code. And the bankruptcy code, which we've spent a lot of money figuring out how to comply with, there are different phases where you can do different things. And so whether you're in the exclusivity phase, or whether you're in the bidding and the auction phase, or whether you're past the bidding and the auction phase, then you're able to engage in more binding activities. So we built it so that there's phases where the initial phase is just create your account, get ready, import your claim, and then you can have a voice with your claim. If it goes into the bidding process and there's multiple bidders and you'd like to back the one that you would like to win the bid because you think they've got the best model, then you can allocate it to that. Then if it actually moves through the binding process, we can, or the auction and the bid is actually won, you can start trading with each other so that you get on the right side, so that you could swap your equity for your coins, or you could try and find someone else that wants to take that from you. So we're kind of going through the life cycle. And in order to keep compliant with the bankruptcy code, we only allow the next feature to be released once we're at the phase where it's compliant with the bankruptcy code.
Okay, we have Ronan, and then after Ronan, we're going to go with Garrett.
Hey, Simon, can you guys hear me?
Can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the video. The only thing I take issue with, I promise none of the borrowers are disgruntled, but great video. Just want to ask about, you upload your claim, like you said in the video, the collateral obviously is not shown because that's pledged somewhere else. With people that are borrowers and people that are on the UCC that are, big borrowing positions, whether it's, massive Bitcoin loans or others, within your solution for winning your bid, again, only public information, will borrowers be included in that, or is that going to be something that's separate? And then the one other thing, if you can share a little bit about your discussion with CZ and how that'll apply to the Celsius bankruptcy. Thanks. And look forward to the U.S. beating you here in the World Cup here in about 10 minutes.
No chance. Yes, awesome. So, right. So, yeah, the available balance is because the collateral is actually pledged, but we have two columns, and I really appreciate any feedback on the user experience. On the left is your actual amount, and on the right is the available to use. And so if it's a bit confusing, if you were to pledge it over for an investment, it wouldn't be available to use. But it doesn't mean that if you wanted to, use it for something where it didn't need to be available, then we would try and make a better user experience to make that possible. And really appreciate the feedback on trying to get the loan data in there as well. And we can, we're just doing it in a bit of a phased approach. So that's cool. What was the second question?
Just if you're able to comment, just your discussion with CZ and how that's going to apply to Celsius creditors.
So yeah, we the Bank to the Future team had a meeting with the Binance team today. We wanted to understand more about what they were doing in terms of their allocations and their investments. And we've had a good working relationship at Bank to the Future. We're already a Binance broker. So we essentially are going to be doing syndicates of deals. And so any deals that we want to put forward, we're able to, we're just working through the terms at the moment. As soon as we're in a position to be able to share something more, we'll be putting forward our proposals as part of the syndicate that are involved in that investment fund. And it's not an actual fund, it's more a group of people that have pledged an amount of money, and I intend to pledge to it as well. And so then once they're in that group, they can put forward some of the deals as well. And so we'll certainly see what we can do for the Celsius side as well.
All right, sounds good, Simon. I appreciate the time. Hey, just don't forget about us, but appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
I'm not going to forget about myself. I'm one of you.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks again.
Thanks.
I'm not actually a creditor anywhere else, so Celsius will always be, my number one priority.
Alrighty, now we have Garrett.
Yeah, good evening, Simon. Thanks for taking my question. Can you maybe just explain again, so when they file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, the claim gets fixed to the dollar amount at that time. And I think you said that when the market goes down, that is actually beneficial in some circumstance. So I'm just wondering if you can explain, if we were to go to Chapter 7 and everything gets liquidated, I would assume a higher market, a crypto market, would be beneficial if you get paid out in dollar terms. But if somebody were to buy all the assets, I would then assume a lower market is more beneficial in the case of you maybe getting the actual coins back. If I'm correct or incorrect, can you maybe just expand on that? Thanks.
Yeah, so it's a depends answer. Sorry to give you the lawyer answer, because it depends on the outcome. But I've seen, having been involved in all these processes, a strong desire in order to pay in kind for those that want crypto. But pay in kind is actually very misleading, because it doesn't mean you get, like, if you were entitled to 600 Bitcoin. The way the process actually works, and you could look at the Voyager FTX deal to get an understanding of how this has been done in previous deals. They basically dollarize the value at the time of filing the petition. What that means is it's used in order to calculate your pro rata share. So imagine there's 650,000 creditors. And at the time of the pre-petition, Bitcoin, the price was calculated. I published it on my Twitter, and all of the different prices, and then you would essentially have a percentage of that claim. So the way they did it in FTX is, or how it was proposed, and now it's got to go through the whole process, is that if you, for example, owned some Matic, and Matic did incredibly well relative to Bitcoin, that benefit is shared across everybody. It isn't attributed to the individual. And so the dollarized value is essentially just your pro rata share. So it says, I'm going to get 1% of all of the value of the estate. And then the value of the estate is taken as a whole, and it's shared across everybody. So you don't, like it, because they have to treat it, fairly across everybody by the bankruptcy code. And so then what they do is they essentially say, right, for example, one of my proposals was just to keep all the Bitcoin, convert the rest to ETH or something like that. Then all of that would be shared across everybody based upon their percentage. And you would have, if, for example, you had an account with just Bitcoin and ETH, you'd have less Bitcoin and ETH. And you wouldn't be entitled to the rest because they've lost, Celsius very kindly lost over 50% of our coins. So that's how it actually works in the bankruptcy code using the Voyager example. And so you would expect a similar type of thing to happen here.
Okay,
now,
so
in terms of short and stuff, so imagine a bidder wants to come along and buy all the coins, which just won't happen. Forget about it. Um, they'll always try and favor a predatory bid because they need to justify it to their shareholders. But if someone wants to come along and buy all the coins and replace it, the cheaper those comes, if they're buying it with dollars, then the Celsius is crypto short. So the cost of filling that hole becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. If the price recovers, then the price of filling that hole in that methodology gets more and more expensive. So recovery would increase the dollar value of all the liabilities and go into the billions and billions and billions as the price recovers. It's relatively meaningless because everything's dollarized and no one's going to fill that hole. And so really the best is to try and make sure that you get entitlement to your coins and securities unless someone's going to come and put this magic cash bid, which a lot of the process is favored towards.
okay, all right. I think that clears it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett. Next, we have Abi.
Thanks, Mary. Hi, Simon.
Hello.
I have also messaged you, the DM you. This is a snapshot from Kirkland and Ellis, who is counsel and representing Celsius in this case. And so my question is, that's their August 1st to 31st August bill invoice, and it's like 4.5 million, including expenses. So two questions. Uh, this bleeding of money, is it both from Celsius employees as well as these expensive lawyers? Are they definitely coming from customer funds, or there is demarcation, different buckets of that? And if yes, it is coming from customer funds, can you creatively think of way in at least stopping that bleeding, maybe have some skin in the games of these lawyers or these employees? Maybe they get paid in the assets later on, instead of, because in their interest, if what is their incentive is to drag the case as long as possible and bleed out customer deposits if that's the source of their funding.
Yeah, so it's a really horrible process. You've kind of touched upon the dynamics of Chapter 11. And so for me, the process is try and get the coins as fast as possible so that you can make the custody determination that they're not the property of the estate. And then distribute the securities. And then rather than, them forcing you to sell your coins to invest in their business, put together a process by allowing a bidder to come in, bid using a creative bid for that, that leads to the distribution of all those securities and all those coins to the creditor. And then, and only then, if one of those companies wants to, raise additional finance, then you can allocate some of yours to them. And if they don't raise the finance because it wasn't a good deal in the first place, rather than being forced into that, they can go into their own Chapter 11 and sell off any of their assets or whatever. With the lawyers, the reason that they like the cash bid is pretty sick. But the reason that they like the cash bid is because most of that cash bid will be used on their professional fees to close the Chapter 11 process and negotiate all of the releases that we're paying for the company that they're about to close down. And so it's why it really favors, everything moves towards, kind of the cash bid because they want enough cash to cover their fees, get out of Chapter 11. And so the best you can hope for from my experience so far is ensuring that they got enough cash and you get through towards the end of Chapter 11 for them to cover their fees. And you ensure that all of the securities are the property of the creditors and all the coins are the properties of the creditors, and just don't let them allow through the reorg process to force you to where they apply to the court. So at the moment, in the Celsius case, they applied to the court to say, we want to sell client Bitcoins because we consider them ours. And now they've applied to the court in order to say we want to sell stable coins because we consider them ours. Fortunately, the US trustee objected and the regulators objected. And they said, no, we want to determine whether you're entitled to do that or not. But the whole point of the reorg process in the case of Celsius is they need a lot of money to invest in their new company. And so they're going to apply to the court in order to determine that they can take our money and force us to invest in their reorganization, which is a process I'm violently trying to oppose at the moment. If they've got their own money that they want to invest in their own company, then fine. But please, if you want my Bitcoin, don't claim that they're yours and allow me to voluntarily invest in that operation.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And can't, like, I know that you will probably laugh. Can't some part of lawyers fee be paid in cell token? So if the country survive, if the company survives, they have a skin in the game.
I tell you what, if you can find a lawyer that would take cell token, then I'll also take my salary in cell token for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I said. It's probably no one will agree. Yeah, but thanks for the answers.
And I'd be very concerned about the lawyer that would accept it too. Better call Saul.
Yeah.
Thank you, Abi. Mandalorian.
Hey, hi everyone. Thanks for letting me just ask a question. I will not take lots of the time. But the only thing that I want to ask Simon is why create a system that people can provide the information of their claims without an explicit plan written in paper and so everyone can understand. These kind of talks to all the communities so technical, no one understands nothing. We want a savior, but we had that in Alex, and we all know where we end up. So we have the vision, the community had a vision. So the question is like that. Why a need to get and gather information on depositors first without a plan, a real plan, a solid plan presented to the community? Thank you.
Yeah, I would absolutely love, there's nothing that I would love more than be able to present the plan. Unfortunately, it would disqualify me from the process. So the way that it works is the bankruptcy code says that the debtor has exclusivity for 120 days, and they've now applied for an extension to that. If the judge grants the extension, then no one is allowed to formally present a plan. And if they do, it would disqualify them from the bidding process. So
yes, sorry to interrupt. I understand perfectly what you said, but so the question was why gather information on depositors before you can do that?
Because having been involved in that process, it is very, very useful to be able to say that there are X number of people that would like it to go in this direction.
We will have a vote. Sorry to interrupt again. We will have a vote afterwards. So that matter will be
yes, more a vote with capital. So
of course,
a vote with money versus a vote is treated very differently. There's, money is really the king of the process. And so, yeah, we're trying to kind of work within the confines of the limitations that we're presented with. And hopefully, if we can make this, make this work, then, I think we can get what we want with our securities owned by us, funds owned by us. I wish I could, at the end of this process, I'm certainly going to share everything I can about the atrocities of this process. And how it can be done better, but this is the process we have to play within at the moment.
Okay, thank you. I really don't see the need to collect information on depositors beforehand, but that is not.
So one example is BF Global. We will be doing a securities offering, and if anyone wants to engage in that securities offering, then we've come up with a process where we can trigger that at the exact right time. It will become clear as we go through the process.
Thank you, Mandalorian. Next, we have Kappa.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Simon. This somewhat piggybacks a little bit off of what Abby was referencing. Simon, with the new information with CZ, Binance having that $1 billion fund, and I've heard recently that they're going to up it to $2 billion. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
The other billion is going to come from the syndicate of people that contribute. So that's there's a group of people such as Bank to the Future that want to contribute to that.
Okay. And with December 5th being a pivotal day with GK8 and any other items on the docket, how do you see things realistically playing out with the new information that I'm sure that you have garnered behind the scenes that you haven't mentioned, some you can or cannot mention, but how do you see things playing out from December 5th throughout the other key dates in December, court hearings and beyond? And finally, to piggyback on what Abdi was mentioning, the issue with the extended period, exclusivity. It was my understanding that even if an exclusivity period is granted, a bidder or a buyer can submit and it can be accepted and they can come out of exclusivity at any point in time. Thanks.
Okay, so firstly, I'm unable to comment or discuss anything on the bidding process. One thing I can say is that there seems to be a strong desire, given the current market and the current cash burns, to get this process wrapped up as fast as possible from everyone that I'm speaking to. So that is everyone's interest is aligned in that stage, in that side. But I'm unable to comment on the exact bidding process. And no, you can't submit a plan during exclusivity. You can only, if you submit a plan, they will send you to the investment bank and they'll say bid and submit a reorg plan with your bid. And so if you go to Celsius and say, here's my plan, they'll say, go speak to the investment bank and bid. And if you go to the UCC and say, here's my plan, they'll say Celsius currently has exclusivity. We're interested in understanding what you're doing, but we'd explicitly have to take over the process until anything more formal can be done. So go speak to the debtor, and we've got agreements of confidentiality with the debtor as well, amongst the UCC and the debtor.
But am I correct that that Celsius, they can come out of exclusivity at any point in time that they choose?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
That's
Thank
their
you.
choice.
Yeah. As always, Simon, LFG, please, let's do it. Thank you.
LFG. Thank you.
Thank you, Kappa. Alan?
Hey, thanks, Mary. Hey, thanks, Simon. Really quickly, there's a lot of talk right now going on about mining profitability and cash flow positive, and it shouldn't be ambiguous. It should be either they are or are not. I was hoping that if you can clarify that.
Yes, it's not ambiguous. I don't know why anyone is saying that it is ambiguous. Celsius published their financials, and if you read those financials, you'll find out that in the last financials they published, they lost 15 million that month. What is ambiguous is during one of the, I don't know if you'd call it a hearing. I think it was one of the meetings where Chris Ferrari, the CEO, who, by the way, my experience has been good in all my interactions with him. But for some reason, he said a phrase that probably got misinterpreted. He said that he could mine Bitcoin profitably. And what I think he meant, and I can't really speak for him, but it wasn't under oath. So if it put him under oath, it may be. But some people selectively heard that and said the operation of Bitcoin mining is profitable. But it's not profitable. Just look at the financials that they've published. And I'm only going off public information here, so I'm not revealing anything non-public. But based upon public information, you can verify that for yourself. I sent out some tweets. Just on public information, the mining needs significant investment and more investment than Celsius currently holds on cash. So The question comes, who's going to make that investment? If they sell our stable coins, which is what they're applying to do, then it's a forced investment. If they go out and raise additional, what's the name of the financing? I've forgotten the name of the financing. Begins with F. Losing my mind. There's a type of finance, dip financing, debtor in possession financing. If they do that, they'd become a secured creditor, and so that would dilute our claims as well. And so I want to reverse the process. I want to say issue everyone shares in the mining operation. We'll go through the process in order to try and get it. You'll tell us we've got to get in the bid and reorg process. So we'll go through that process, get you everyone's coins in custody, everyone's securities, and then if anyone wants to invest in that mining operation, they can invest in that mining operation. If they don't want to, then it would either need to go out and raise finance, with the free market afterwards, or it need to go into its own Chapter 11 and sell off the tangible assets that it's purchased now or in the future. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Alan. Next, we have Crypto Girl.
Yes, hello there. Thanks for letting me in, Mary. I just wanted to go back to the key issue of who owns the assets and coins on the platform. Simon, you'd mentioned that the trustee has objected to it being Celsius, and so have the regulators. And I was wondering if there was anything that you could do or have done to try and secure ownership of the coins to be with the stakeholders.
Yeah, the problem is this was my fear a long time ago. I tried to warn against this really early. When the ad hoc group of custody was set up, and I don't blame anyone, it's just a natural thing to do. The ad hoc groups went off and represented themselves. And because of that, they had a vested interest in saying that custody belongs to them. And so by default, that meant that the earn accounts don't belong, rather than us all fighting together and saying, well, it was all fraudulent. And because of that prisoner's dilemma, unfortunately, the Kirkland and Ellis jumped onto the strategy and said, if we can just get everyone those tiny amount of coins in custody, it belongs to them, then we can prove that the rest are ours, and then we can spend it and do what we need to do because they're ours. So unfortunately, that's just prisoner's dilemma. I tried to warn against it early, but I don't think there was any way of stopping it with 650,000 creditors. If it was a small group of people, we probably could have just all negotiated amongst ourselves. We tried. It didn't necessarily work. So, there is the examiner released a report, and
Yes.
that will be determined by the judge, and the judge will determine whether custody was real or custody was not. If custody is determined to be real, then I think that there's a very good case that the coins, all of the other coins, belong to Celsius, and they'll ride with that. That's been their position from the beginning. They'll hold back some of those custody for their clawbacks and preferences that they're trying to do as the examiner goes deeper and deeper into some more of the representations and cell manipulation investigations and tax investigations that they got coming up. So I don't see a way of winning at this stage. Maybe if there's a way of getting everyone together, but the problem is that the custody ad hoc groups won't want to be diluted by the earn ad hoc group. And so I started just focusing on free market solutions. If anyone's got legal solutions, it's kind of up. I really don't mind either way. It's just I would rather use the upcoming process that exists right now, which is the bidding process, in order to say, well, you think they're yours, that's fine. Let's bid on them and then give everyone their coins and give everyone their securities. And that might be a lot faster. At the same time, the legal process will run its course, and we try and run those side by side.
Okay, because I know that a couple of days ago, something hit the docket by an earn customer with representation, somebody called Eric Wolwend, docket 1430. And so I'm part of the earn Telegram group, and we have decided to do a joinder to his motion and another motion that's protesting against selling our stable coins and declaring our assets to be property of the estate. And so we're wondering, maybe that would have some impact with the judge, seeing a lot of signatures on these joinders. So I don't know if there's a way of opening that joinder out to a larger group of people who feel strongly that their coins are their property and they certainly don't want to surrender them to Celsius, whether there's a way of opening that joinder out so that people could add their signatures to it.
Happy for you to share anything here, or if there's some links or something. I'm trying to remain a bit neutral on this because I'm just focusing my energy on the process that I can control. And that involves working with lots of people that have lots of different ideas, and then creating marketplaces where we can match everyone up depending on where it goes. But all of these ad hoc groups exist. And so thank you for sharing that initiative. For anyone, if anyone wants to be a part of it, where do they go?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Crypto Girl. Next, we have Plan C.
Hey guys, thanks again for another great presentation today. I just think it's really cool to kind of see the optionality that we could all have access to potentially. But yeah, I just wanted to say, I think it was Mandalorian, I'm pretty sure that was his name, that spoke earlier. Even though Simon has not presented an official plan, you can't do that under the process. He has provided a lot of educational content, via YouTube and different things for the community to understand the pros and cons of different options, right? So, there's a lot of content out there. Simon's put out just an incredible amount of content over the last few months, just educating the community on all the pros and cons. So I would just say, that might be something to look into more in depth while we're waiting for, to see how things play out.
All right. Thanks, Plan C.
Thank you.
Theory?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I think the value of this is mainly to receive information from the experience of you, Simon. I think it makes a lot of sense to take a look at it. I know you cannot talk about everything because you're also sometimes a party in some of these things, but the Chapter 11 is also it's got some pros and cons too, because you can also kind of somewhat evade some of the responsibility, particularly the personal responsibility that people could have. And on that sense, the punishment is probably not the one that you would wish to have, but maybe maybe it's the most optimal way to try and get the assets as much as you can or want, which is ultimately what will make you full as much as possible. So we'll see what happens. I'll obviously look at it, and anytime like you need some Swiss perspective on things, then let me know.
Thank you, Theory. Jeff?
Yeah, thank you. So this was obviously my very first Chapter 11. If I were starting again from scratch, I would have had all that technology built already, and worked with probably either the UCC or the US trustee to take over as fast as possible and allocate all of the coins and all of the assets to creditors, and then allow people to voluntarily engage in that. My guess is that the professionals would have been very upset with that, because it would have cost us probably 100 million less than getting to where we are today. Unfortunately, there's fortunate and unfortunate. The fortunate is that Celsius is in a better position than some of these other Chapter 11s, certainly. Some of them, like the FTX one, is looking dire. The unfortunate is because we were first, we were also kind of the test bed of understanding how to do this. And I think we could, if we were starting again from scratch, we probably could have optimized this a lot more, spent a lot less money, and got to the end result a lot faster.
Alrighty, now Jeff?
Sure, thanks. And thanks, Simon, for doing this. So Simon, I know you can't talk about the bidding process specifically, but I'm interested in your thoughts about how the bidding could play out versus a standalone reorganization plan from Celsius, because I see them in a little bit of competing with each other, right? So if Celsius sells all of the assets through the bids, so they're selling mining, GK8, earn, custody, loans, all of that, there's nothing left to do a standalone reorganization on. So do you see them doing that, selling, the bids are going to culminate on December 22nd, I think, and do you see them selecting winners to these bids and then there's really nothing left to do a reorganization on, or might they choose to keep a couple of the assets? I'm getting some static. Might they choose to keep a couple of the assets and, say Bitcoin mining and custody, and sell everything else off through the bids, and then base the reorganization around mining and custody? How do you see it playing out between the two? Because I kind of see them in conflict with each other.
Yeah. My concern with the reorganization is just the sheer amount of time it's going to take, and all of the players are kind of wanting to get this done before Celsius runs out of money, and then they have to start selling our coins. And so I think everyone's aligned around that process, and the reorg is kind of like a backup plan, and they want to make sure that they've got the ability to use our coins in order to reinvest it. So you just need to look at the finances and just follow the numbers and follow the money to get a sense of where this is going. So the reorg would just take such a long time to get all that signed off, to get the and if it was going to happen, why haven't we seen a plan already? I don't have a satisfactory answer to that question yet. And where's the money going to come from? So a reorg could happen. They can raise finance after distributing everyone's securities and everyone's coins, and then they can raise finance in the open market like everyone else, and everyone that really wants to invest in that reorg can invest in that reorg. Just don't force the people that don't want to do it.
Simon, you started at 137 and it's currently 225. Did you want to go another 10 minutes or?
As long as I'll do 1 hour exactly. Is it 1 hour?
It is not exactly 1 hour. You started at 137. You started a little late. That's Eastern time, so it would be.
Okay. Yeah, I think I've got to shoot off now, unfortunately.
Okay. You do have 3 more in queue up on the stage. Did you want to take those, or did you want to end it here?
I think I'm going to need to end it here actually, because I've got another call I've got to get onto.
Okay. Well, I apologize for those that are on the stage, and for I have many requests as well. So I apologize to you.
Mary, can I at least go with Simon? Simon, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, go on then.
Okay, because I wrote everything down. So first of all, thanks for doing that, and I make it short. So currently, when I use your dashboard, it currently is not legal binding or something, right? So I can just use it. Okay. So it's based on the Strato information, right?
Correct.
Okay. Then I would advise you use schedule line F, which is the first column, because everyone not by names has a unique ID. So also your name is probably twice in the sheet. One does not make any sense, but of course, do we also see your coins? And now here's my really important question. When I use your board, right, I see that there is a minimum amount I have to withdraw, and there are fees associated with it. Will this fee stay the same?
So are you talking about Bank to the Future fees in general?
Yeah, when I want to withdraw my funds from your platform, of course, I have a minimum amount which I have to withdraw, and there are fees associated with this. For Bitcoin, it's currently 0.0002. Will these fees stay the same?
Yes, there are fees involved in administering withdrawals. So
okay, yeah. So because when I translated, I think it's in euros or dollars. I think this is okay because. And then I'm done.
Yeah, normally a withdrawal on Bank to the Future normally costs about $25.
I know. And again, for me, I want to make it clear,
You came up with the solution or the prison's dilemma, right? And how we could solve that from absolute scarcity to abundance. And you give us the possibility, you have still coins and you have equity and fiat within a fund. Okay, because I just want to run down my math, because I see, of course, in the Strata document, okay, you have there 303 Bitcoins and like 3,000 Ether and stuff. So when I just go what you said, by 60% haircut, you would end up with 123 Bitcoins and one like 1,377 Ether.
Yeah, let me try and make that clear. So we're not saying what the haircut is. We're just saying conservatively, we think it's reasonable for you to expect 40% back. Hopefully it'll be a lot more.
And you're totally right with that. And again, I think also you kind of suffered from that pretty tremendous. But so what I see is, okay, you would lose your Litecoin, you would use your USDT with this tether, and you would lose your sell. I mean, when they sell this off, I think this is then coming into the fund itself, right? I just wanted to make it clear.
Yeah, no, it's let me make sure that's clear. So I see two separate processes. One is coins and one is securities. Selling, rebalancing everybody to ETH and Bitcoin is an idea. And it was a popular idea when we polled it. But we could really use the technology to genuinely find out without some crazy person buying votes in order to swing it in their direction. So what we wanted to do is actually have KYC'd real accreditors determine that, and at the right point in the process we can do that. So but let me explain the process I outlined in the video series. Securities is just a fund with all the securities, and coins are coins, two separate things. Our job is to, as I see it, make sure that all the coins are yours in custody and not sold off by Celsius, and that all the securities are wrapped up into a fund so that you get the securities. We wouldn't put coins into a fund. We just simply try and distribute all the coins equally across everybody in custody where you own it.
Thanks, Alexander.
Thank you.
Simon, can you take one thing for me real quick?
I'll go on in, Anthony.
Cool. So got two little things for you just real quick. From what you were saying about the mining aspect, wasn't he basically just applying that they mine Bitcoin profitably, but of course they have additional expense in building out the operation? That was pretty much what he was trying to say, correct? Are we all on the same page on that?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah,
But
okay. That I just wanted to make that clear. And then secondly, I've been thinking over the last, few days where the current prices of, Bitcoin are and where they might be going potentially. And we have outstanding loans from like Equities First. We also have some legal battles, right, with like Jason Stone and multiple things. Wouldn't it be very intelligent from Celsius, right, as a company right now to go to these counterparties, for example, Equities First, and Equities First I think still owes us about $340 million, right? Wouldn't it be smart on them to go there and say, hey, Equities First, you owe us 340. Give us 300 today, and we'll give you a $40 million discount to get 300 million back to Celsius as soon as possible. Just hear me out on this. Then you have someone like Jason Stone, who they're going after him for 60 million. Maybe settle with him outside of court for 40 million, and whatever else is still left out there. Let's just say you could get 350 to 400 million back to the entity very, very quickly. And as these prices drop in crypto, they could buy a significant amount of the whole back with this additional funds on hand, right? And that could be a methodology where instead of having 53% of the coins, you might have 70 or 75% of the coins. And it puts us in a completely different situation. Wouldn't that be something logical to do? As well as, let's just say you also have a $300 million currently worth of stable coins on the balance sheet. Maybe after spending that, you still need an extra 300 million, right? To fill the hole. Well, let's just say you got the 350 or 400 from all that stuff you're bringing back, and then you got 300 million in stable coins, and you go buy back all the Bitcoin, etc., right? Or as much as you can. Why would you do this? To dollarize the debt, right? So now if you spent the stable coins, for example, plus all that additional money, you could bring a significant amount of the coins back, and then your debt, or all of the coins back, then your debt is dollar valued, meaning your debt would be 200 million to creditors or 300 million to creditors or whatever the case may be, because right now it's impossible to do this thing with a moving target. Your debt to creditors moves every single day with the price of these assets. So buying all the assets back and making it a dollarized debt would make this process so much easier and make the thing make so much more sense, because then you know what you owe people. Right now, if Bitcoin goes to 100,000 tomorrow, I'm not saying it is, but if it did, you're never going to catch it. The debt's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So if you could buy a lot of these coins back below the current mark of where they were at the time of filing bankruptcy, it would be very logical to do to dollarize the debt to the customers. Just a thought, because we all want our coins back. That's what we all care about. That's what you've reiterated on this call. Just that concept and that theory. I just wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, so I'd probably say practically how you do that. Basically, Celsius moves from an operating company to a hedge fund. And essentially, we'd all be investing in Celsius's ability to time markets. And so I think in order to get that signed off by the court, they'd probably need to put a regulated wrapper around that concept of us all being invested in a hedge fund. And so what I would like to see is maybe if they want to keep Celsius the company, issue us securities in Celsius the company, and then put together a full prospectus with full disclosure on exactly how they'd like to do that. And then if they give us back our coins rather than selling our coins, they could do a securities offering, and we could voluntarily to decide in their ability to run a regulated hedge fund rather than an unlicensed hedge fund from before. That's
Correct.
what I'd say.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, right, the 400, let's just say they got the money back that they don't currently have from like the loans and legal battles, etc. They can do whatever they want with that money technically, correct? If it's their money, like for example, if they're getting this US dollars, let's just say right now they have like $100 million in cash on the company's balance sheet. Let's say they had 400 or 500, just to give you an example. Could they make a decision to say, well, hey, now Ethereum's at 700 and Bitcoin's at 12 or 13,000. This could be a time where we could get a lot of that coin back for our customers. Would they be able to make a decision like that?
So it'd be a material change to the business. So it'd have to be signed off by the court, and they'd have to go through that process.
But they could present it if they wanted to, correct? In a sense?
If that's their reorg plan, yeah, they could present that as their reorg plan.
Okay, that's all I was just wanting to run that by you. Thanks, Simon.
Cheers, Anthony.
Thank you, Anthony. Simon, I know you have another meeting, and it's you're a little past your time.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoy the USA and England match. I've got a meeting to do, and then I'll try and catch it. Yeah, always remember, you're at live one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. We're now into the bidding process. The whole crypto market has changed. We're learning a lot more. I want to try and make sure that we're all on the right side of the change with our coins in custody and our securities in custody, and us being able to do voluntary investment for all the ideas and the ingenuity and the people that want to put those ideas forward, then write a fully compliant prospectus and allow us to voluntarily decide who we want to back. And we've got all the technology to do that. And we're just playing the different processes to try and move everything in that direction. And if we can get it in that direction, if you're involved in any of these other Chapter 11s, hopefully we can set the precedent for the industry and put this in a much, much fairer place where we own our coins, we own our securities, and we voluntarily invest based upon our decisions rather than being forced to invest. So thank you all, and I'll see you next week. Adios.